Attention on this channel. We've got an important message. All observations and opinions shared here are for educational purposes only. This content is intended for adults. Viewer discretion is advised. Be advised that any individuals mentioned are not intended to suggest involvement in any crime.
Case by case, got the fire.
Ha!
Yo, you wanna talk about true crime? We start with the data flows. Digital footprints meet criminal defense, that's how this story goes. This channel's all about online evidence, the stuff they overlook. From live stream chats to deleted posts, it's all in the true crime book. My goal is to provide insight for the attorney in the darkest hour, to find the proof that can make a case or break a criminal's power. So whether you're a lawyer or a PI, we're diving deep in the mess, exposing misconduct and hidden truths to get to the very best leads. We break it down case by case on the trail of the facts. We show how digital evidence changes case outcomes, we on their tracks. No rumors, no gossip, just the evidence clear and concise, shining a light on the shadows at any cost or price. What do we do?
Case by case.
What's the motto? We're here for the victims, the ones who were left behind. We're here for the families, giving them peace of mind. We follow the paper trail, the digital footprints and the timelines, connecting the dots, we're reading between the lines. We don't just talk theory, we show you how it works in practice. We're here to help you stay ahead of the curve, to get a new analysis. You think you're in charge, but we're here to find what matters most. We're giving a voice to the voiceless, like a digital ghost. We break it down case by case on the trail of the facts. We show how digital evidence changes case outcomes, we on their tracks. No rumors, no gossip, just the evidence clear and concise, shining a light on the shadows at any cost or price. What do we do?
Case by case.
What's the motto? From digital clues, the mystery, you wanna know the answers? We're dedicated to the chase, from the first look at the scene to the final resting place. We're here to find the answers, to give the victims their due. A true crime channel with a heart and a purpose too. We're here to build up, to expose the truth, and to shine a light on the darkest of deeds with all our might. We're here for the truth, we're here for the facts, and that's it. We don't chase the trends, we just chase the truth and never quit. We let the past speak for itself, we let the facts lay the ground. We're just here to be a voice, a tribute that is sound. Yeah, it's all for the truth.
Ha! Come on, come on. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome to Case by Case. If you're new here, welcome. If you are a subscriber, love you. Please hit that like and subscribe. We have a full jam-packed show tonight. We are talking about a lot of things. We're going to go from Google Maps all the way into the arrest of Patrick Westfall and his son. And thank you, Big JD, for the heads up. But you know what? Public record is public record. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And unfortunately, all I can say is that maybe she should have chosen a better baby daddy. So how's everybody doing? Me and Shboogies, let me bring her on, have been working all day long. Well, prior to today, we've been working behind the scenes, getting everything ready and lined up. There she is.
Hi. When you were saying that, I was like, yeah. I'm so excited. Not to be threatened by Jennifer, but otherwise excited.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel her pain. You know, it sucks. You know, if she's upset, I get it. But at the same time, we're upset that there's a lot of unanswered questions. And unfortunately, Patrick Westfall is, he's at the core of a lot of those unanswered questions. And once we think that we have some validity to what he's saying, we are hit with a whole bunch of contradictories that don't add up, and we're going to discuss them tonight. So welcome everybody in the chat. Glad to see you all here. Shboogies, I'm going to have you drop your link to your channel in the chat.
Oh.
That way, if you are a subscriber here and not over there, please subscribe to Miss Shboogies.
Coming back at you soon, guys, once I'm medicated.
We all go live at different times. We all cover different things. And, I'm so happy to have her here because, as many tentacles as this case has, we have to have that many people investigating each one. We just can't, we just can't continue to take what the state wants to cram down our throat, period.
Absolutely.
Hey, Laura, girl.
Thank you, Unindicted. And Big JD, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. Actually, that no hate to you whatsoever. I think we both appreciate that, knowing that. And I think I would want to say that nothing we say tonight is to attack her son. Like, if you read the public records, you can make your own decisions about him. I don't think we're going to be talking ish about him. It's not about him, right? He's just in the record.
Right. And yes, I am dressed as a witch in my avatar simply because it's my birthday month. I love Halloween. So my birthday is coming up. So why not celebrate this way? Because typically I've been 25 now for forever. I don't age. I don't, 25 candles. That's it. You better not put nothing else on my fucking birthday cake.
Yeah.
So there it is. So we're going to start off tonight with, before we get into the Patrick Westfall public records and the probable cause for him and other things, we are going to talk about something that is important to Shboogies. We're going to talk about the white vehicle on the private drive and some coordinates that we kind of worked out today. And we have Google Earth on hand that we can show you. And there's a couple of areas where I've gotten pretty good at Google Earth, but there's some things that I still can't do. And maybe all of us together, you guys can talk me through it. We're going to look at distances and meters and when the car came in and where we believe the car went next. So we're going to start off with, we're going to play that video of the white car that was in discovery, but somehow missed by the defense. Sure, it wasn't missed by the prosecution. It was just not mentioned, just like the white van video. So we're going to talk about the white car. And one thing that I want to do, Shboogies, when we get done watching this, and this is like, please bear with me or bear with the video, because this is a continuously running video throughout the day, and it's about 10 minutes for us to capture about 1 minute of footage. But the one thing that I want to do once this video is done playing is I want to map out the distance from where this camera was to this vehicle that we see on the private drive. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about, if you're new to the case, there was a video camera positioned to capture the private drive leading into the Monon High Bridge area and then further on to Brad Weber's. There's a gate that is sometimes closed, sometimes open. On this particular day, we have every reason to believe that the gate was open, because when Brad Weber is seen coming home at 1:44 on this video. He's driving full force. That there doesn't seem to be a reason for him to be slowing down, like he has to stop, get out, open the gate to access this private drive that leads into under the Monon High Bridge, which then continues around to his property. I would like to map. That's one thing that I didn't do today when I was going over the coordinates that I sent to you, Shboogies, was kind of grasp the distance from the camera to the vehicle. But the more that I've watched this video and the more that we dig into the witness statements about the vehicles in the area, I have a couple of different opinions about the car that we're seeing. It's a car. I don't believe it's a truck. I don't believe it's a van. What do you think, Shboogies?
Yeah, a lot of people said it looked like it could be a truck. I could see that. For me, it looks more like a sedan. I feel like when it's first coming in, it kind of looks like a truck. That might be from glare, I'm not really sure. And then as it kind of goes onward, it looks more like a sedan to me, but who knows?
Well, we're going to watch it all together. Exotic. What is it? Again, my glasses are not focused right. Exotic Prairie 35. I didn't receive it, and that might have been because my bank account and Cash App were unlinked. So you can try to resend it because now it's been relinked. I had to move some things around based on the channel and making sure that I'm accounting for everything that goes in and everything that comes out. Long story short. So, okay, let's start the video. And really quick, let me pull this up and share my screen. Just to give you guys a perspective, especially for those of you, I have a lot of new people for some reason, which is great, that I've gotten a lot of emails from who are just, actually, I've got a lot of people from the Karen Reed trial coming over and jumping on the Richard Allen case because this is the next big controversial case, and that's their playground, I guess. But let me share my screen, and to put this into perspective, can you see my screen, Shboogies?
Yes.
Okay, so down here. And can you see my mouse moving around?
Yes.
Okay, so down here is where we have the white vehicle driving in to the private drive. This road right here leads you in, and you can see it cuts off to the right. This really actually needs to be moved, this little pinhead right here, because you actually just keep going straight. Up here, and you can kind of see the white dusting of the road all the way up through the tree line to underneath the Monon High Bridge. It kind of like curves to the right, and then it cuts over, and right about here, you see the Monon High Bridge, but it kind of gets clouded into the tree, in like the woods and the trees, to right here. And you can still see, if you follow my mouse, you still see the dusted white. It's like a dirt road. It's not paved. It's not gravel. It's a dirt road that travels all the way up through here to Brad Weber's property. So backing back up.
Do we know where the gate is?
The gate is, yes. And I've only seen one video of someone trying or attempting to drive up to the private drive, and the gate cut them off. So we see Teresa Liebert's property right here. And I believe the gate is right in this area right here. I am going to drive this route when I'm there and capture this footage where the gate is and try to add it to this map. But the gate is shortly beyond the Liebert's property. So
is it a gate you can technically climb over if you're not in a car, if you're just...
yes, it actually looks like, if you're familiar with the gate that's at the Mears lot, the red like farm gate, I mean, that's only like 3.5 feet high. It's definitely something that you could climb over.
Okay.
There's been some suggestions that the gate was electronic, that it opened and closed at certain times of the day. I have found no proof of that. And I'm really kind of still confused as who owns the gate. Is it the Lieberts or is it Brad Weber? That's been kind of a mystery as far as, because beyond the Lieberts to a certain extent, the Lieberts own some of this property, but once you get down the private drive so far, it then becomes a part of Weber's property. So I don't know who was actually in control of the gate. So I have a feeling there's somebody in chat who has the answer to that, and I know who she is. So maybe she'll chime in. So what I'm curious in knowing is the distance. So over here to the right is the Sandifur property. And I'll zoom in here. And on the left side of this building, or of this home, I would assume is where the camera was located, because the camera was capturing all of this field. Oh, hold on a minute. Let me take that back over. Yeah, what happened? That camera captured from the Sandifurds over here on the right, the white vehicle and Brad Weber's vehicle traveling in. And in the motion to correct error that Michael Osbrook wrote, we only heard about the white van at 144. It wasn't until later when the whole file was reviewed that it became known that there was actually another vehicle. And this is not a road well traveled. This is not a road that, if you don't live on this road, people don't go down here. So this vehicle that's seen on this road is random, and on this particular day is very suspicious. And we're going to watch the video, but I just kind of wanted to give everybody a perspective of where the camera was versus where. Let me see if we can do this right now.
Yeah, like Cryptic said, I just want to clarify real quick. So the white unknown car, or light colored, is 208, and then Brad Weber is seen passing by at 244.
140, or yes, 244. You're right. Yep. So we are looking at 446.34 meters, which I would have to, while we're watching the video, I can convert that into feet from, let's see, from the Sandifur property, the camera, to where the visual is of the white car. So let's go in and let's watch the footage. And there's no sound with it at all. And this is a continuously running camera, so it's not like it's a motion detection. This camera, I believe, ran 24 hours a day, which screams that they were out there pounding the pavement, collecting video camera footage from all over, literally within days, within 24 hours.
It's interesting because there's a house right there that would be in great view, but they probably just didn't have a camera.
And it appears the car, and in this video, just to be clear, this video was recorded on a loop. So you can see the car right now moving into, let me pause it and back it up. So we see the car. It's going, to me, it's going pretty fast for a rural road. And unfortunately, this window pane is right in the middle of our view, which sucks.
And it does appear to be going fast, but then on the way out, it appears to be going much slower than it was coming in.
Correct. So if this is related to the crime, we're dealing with somebody who felt the need to get there right away and then maybe realized somebody else had shit under control, or they were given different instructions once they got so close. Because I don't feel like they were off. See, here the car comes back out. And it's going much slower. I don't feel like there was enough time for the vehicle to actually make it all the way in to underneath the Monon High Bridge.
Not right there. Yeah, there's not enough time for it to get to right there at the south end of the bridge. But there's time to get much further in than we see. Hey, Andy.
And I mean, it's just unfortunate that we don't have all the information that we should have in this case. And we're left to speculate. And a lot of what we're doing here is speculation based on the evidence that we have. And every single time a new piece of evidence that comes out, unfortunately for the state, it continues to destroy their credibility.
Okay, do you want to map the coordinates?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, misbehaved. I wish I could see that good girl, if that's a what you saw.
So All Eyes says one of the cool locals took pics from the Sandifurs if anyone wants a different view of the distance from that road. Girl.
Very cool.
Hey, T, how are you?
Oh, T, yes. Amy got me my coordinates. That's why we're doing this today. And no problem. Thank you.
Michael is in chat. Michael says, together with the timing, what makes this suspicious to me is how the car drives in fast and out really slow. Yeah, it's, that's what we just watched. And that's like, was it, mission accomplished, or, hey, never mind, we'll meet you over here.
Or, hey, I know this person needs some time to get this accomplished, so let me not rush there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million reasons, but the fact of the matter is that we do have footage of this vehicle, and it seems to be suspicious simply because of the date and the time, and then factoring in all of the information that we have. The one thing for me, this is just my opinion, the one thing for me that this links to easily is the information that Reese Davis gave. And that was that they went in and they dropped someone off, and then they turned around and went back to Ron Logan's parked the car behind the barn or the house, then got out and was instructed to walk down the wood line from the cemetery to meet up with Ron Logan. And I'm not saying that's what happened. Hey, Andy Kopsa. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, until we have a real definitive suspect in this case, for me, all cards are on the table. Every avenue needs to be explored because none of the roads that we've been looking at lead to Rick Allen, period. In fact, they lead away.
And I want to say just too, for me personally, I'm always keeping my mind open, but I am right now more leaning towards Patrick and Brad's involvement. Amy is completely different point of view than me. She's much more open. So if I say anything, that's my opinion, not Amy's.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about all of us coming together, as creators is, because we can mutually agree to disagree. And I don't disagree with anything in regards to your opinion at all. I'm just not closing the door to anyone else. And the depositions have really shed light on a lot of this stuff because we're now starting to see how connected Patrick Westfall and there's a Q&A at the top of the chat that I'm hoping that all of you will take a moment to answer. But I still have mixed feelings about Brad Holder and what his role could have been. But the more information that comes out about Patrick Westfall, I'm just like, what?
Why you lie?
This dude is like, and he's good. Like he's good. And he has good speaking skills. He has good verbiage as far as talking everybody down off the ledge about his involvement and what the hell this was all for Brad Holder. He was like a fake True supporter, but I don't know. I don't know. But Patrick Westfall, and when you look at his record, and we are going to see tonight his connections or his possible connections and the lack of charges or the hidden record publicly, it's shocking. And there's a lot of weight in some of the information that we're going to talk about tonight that explains, why maybe Patrick Westfall is connected to some really powerful people.
Yeah. So if you look on Google Earth and you do as a crow flies from the white car, presumably white, to right by down the hill. Now that's as a crow flies. It's about just under 600 feet. Not that one. We'll do it.
You want me to pin it?
Yes, please.
So from the Sandifur, you want me to go from the camera or from the white vehicle?
From the white vehicle to down the hill.
Okay, hold on. So we're going to go from the white vehicle to about, I believe it's like right in here. The bridge ends. We want to make sure that we can still see. So it's about right in here at the bridge ends. Okay. So that's pinned.
That one says about 640 meters. So that's as the crow flies, you're not accounting for the turns and whatnot. But we looked up some quick data. Do you have the data on how long it would take to get 600 meters in 36 seconds?
I do.
So on the video, it's about 36 seconds from when the car goes off, where you can't see it anymore, to when you see it returning back. So I gave it about 36 seconds. To travel around 600 meters in 36 seconds, that car would need to be going 37 miles per hour. It's entirely possible that car was going 37 miles per hour, but it's so far away, it's like impossible to gauge. But it very easily could have been.
Is that in your calculations, is that 37 miles an hour coming out or
Going in? Going in.
Going in.
Mm-hmm. So that's going in. Now, obviously, that's not going to be enough time for that car to get all the way there, turn around, and come back. So in this scenario, the car would have had to go in, probably drop someone off prior to, and then turn around and come back out. And then that person could have walked a little bit further up to where down the hill is.
Okay.
So this is just to say and show everyone, I thought it was important to show that it is possible that this car did enter the private drive, drop someone off, and is seen slowly coming back out. And my personal theory in this scenario is that I believe that this car would have dropped someone off, turned back around, came out, and went to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And likely waited for the girls and whomever to come through the cemetery to pick them up from the cemetery. I say the cemetery because there was a sighting of a car around the cemetery around that time, wasn't there? Like some unknown, unidentified car that was supposedly at the cemetery.
Or if you there's that scenario, or you can look at what Reese Davis claimed, and that was this vehicle went in and went to the back, which it's literally almost all the same place. That this person, which he claims to be Keegan Klein, let me see. This person that he claims to be Keegan Klein, who drove in under, at least close to under the bridge, went over here to Ron Logan's and was supposedly told to park his car in a hidden area back here on Logan's property. So you've got Logan's right here, and then you've got the cemetery right there. And the coordinates that I gave you off the cemetery were actually from the back end of the cemetery. Because that would be where, you could park, your car would be somewhat shielded from the main road. And if you do the coordinates here, there's multiple paths, as you can see. Even though it looks wooded and rugged, there's multiple paths. One here that goes down, and there's also one here that goes down. But if this person did what Reese Davis claimed they did, and I'm not saying it's factual, I do believe that what Reese has stated was told to him. But if a vehicle was to pull into Ron Logan's property, this is Ron Logan's house right here, and they would have pulled in back behind the house, parked somewhere back in here by the tree line, got out, and then began to walk through the woods. And I think that in one of my vault episodes, we have a map that shows you all of the different pathways in these woods that are used by locals, hunters.
We can't see your screen right now.
Oh, you can't see oh my God, are you kidding?
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm right here at the back of Ron Logan's property. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. From the back of Ron, there's all this area back here along the tree line. And there's, multiple pathways down along the creek's edge. And if you look really close, you can see that there's these worn paths through the woods.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Or if someone was to park over here at the back edge of the cemetery, there's paths that lead from there. And they all go down this ridge line to the creek's edge, or even some of them, there's this one right here. Now, this one right here, I believe I have a video of it's actually like a deep cut ravine that goes all the way down the hill from the cemetery all the way almost to the water's edge. And in between that ravine and this ravine, or this pathway right here to the water's edge, in between both of those, the girls were found.
What I found very interesting is I didn't really remember about Ricci saying that part of the confession was driving up to down the hill, because that was prior to at least me even knowing that this footage existed. So that's another weird coincidental thing that now we can kind of corroborate, because we do see a car going that way at the right time.
And this individual person that he's talking about, Ricci claimed that to kill time, this person pulled over on the side of the road and pretended to have a vehicle that was broke down.
And we hear a car in the video. What I believe sounds like a car.
A car, or I know that Michael Osbrook has described over here, and this is another area that I'm going to explore on this trip, is, so we've got Brad Weber's. Let's get to it. Where is it? Weber's. We got Weber's right here. And Weber actually has two entrances to his property, one via the private drive and one being another dirt road that comes down through here. But apparently within this area, there is a access area into the woods that would look like it was made for four-wheelers or ATVs to be driving through the woods. And I know that the sound that we hear in the video could be either. It could, because I don't think there was a vehicle that pulled up underneath the bridge while the video was being shot. And I don't think that, based on the location of the bridge, because I mean, I've been there, the distance from the south end of the bridge out to 300, which would be the main road closest to any vehicles passing, I don't think that a vehicle out there would be heard. But that's not to say that somebody didn't come in through the back way.
No, I didn't even know that there was an ATV trail right there. That makes a ton of sense, actually, that we would hear that.
Yeah, well, we've heard about ATVs. I just didn't know until Michael told me. Until he told me that there was an access area there, which makes a lot of sense. And that immediately throws my brain back to the Garrett Kurtz situation, where he's talking about, him working on Ron Logan's farm, and he used to run amok back there in the woods on the ATVs. So
So also before we get into Patrick of it all too, I wanted to say what I found really interesting is that in the new appellate's team request for the exhibits that they did not have yet for the appeal, there was a list compiled of different exhibits that Andy had put in with the Frakes memo. And it's a long list. And one of the items on the list says 726 North Charles Street to the cemetery. It was like a map route or something of 726 North Charles Street to the cemetery. And do we all know where 726 North Charles Street is? Do you guys know who owned that property at that point?
Okay, so I'm looking at this map right now, and I changed it today, and it definitely didn't update for some reason. So here's 726 Charles Street, which is where Patrick Westfall was living at the time of the murders.
Correct.
And if you remember correctly, Jerry Holman said we couldn't determine where Patrick Westfall's whereabouts were. However, out of Westfall's own mouth, in different interviews, he claimed he was home that day with his son. But so this right here is where Patrick Westfall lives in relation to the trails. And then we're going to put in, why didn't he say? Okay, so from here
to the cemetery.
Well, first of all, from here to here is Canal Park. And this is where supposedly Patrick Westfall's son and Logan Holder would walk to while the parents were drinking out of freaking horns and drinking mead. So it's very close. And this is reportedly where Holder's son met Abby for the first time. So that's pretty close.
And I was just telling this to Amy before that I still find it extremely odd that in the CAD report, when talking about finding Logan, locating Logan, it says Logan met girls at Canal, or I forget exactly what the wording is, but Logan something girls Canal. And if he met Abby at Canal, that makes sense. But why would the CAD report be talking about where Logan met Abby for the first time? So that also strikes me as odd. It makes me wonder if someone reported Logan had been with them at some point that day, maybe at Canal.
I think purposefully we can understand that law enforcement was on to Brad Holder for whatever reason immediately, whether it was a tip from Becky Patty or it was because his son was dating Abby. But the girls were found on the 14th, and as early as the 17th, law enforcement was at Brad Holder's job wanting information about his clocking in and clocking out record. So within 3 days, they were already investigating Brad Holder.
Right. He got multiple tips in, multiple.
So this is where I get confused. And I know that T's in the chat and she's the mastermind behind the Google Earth shit. So from Patrick Westfall's house here to go all the way over here.
Oh, don't you think that's odd? Like, why are they saying where they met at Canal Park on the CAD? Is that not odd?
It is odd. So that's quite that's quite a distance. And for those of you who don't know, and I've shared it with Shboogies, that once upon a time I had someone that I was communicating with that I was not sure of their stability, but they claim to have lived across the street from Patrick Westfall. And they had stated there was things like wild parties going on at Westfall's house every weekend, and that you could easily access the trail system from Westfall's house. And now that we're looking at it on a map, I'm thinking that you would have to take a vehicle.
How far is Canal Park to that point where Kelsey appears to pull over?
Oh, let me see. That's a whole different. Let me see. I'm going to take this off. Hold on a second.
Thank you.
Guys, I can't. I while I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat, so. I'm trying to get this off of here. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so where we have, let me see, where we have, based on the GPS.
Oh, that's so far away.
Yeah, it's really far away. It really is. So all of these landmarks here that we're seeing are the property owners of every residence that I'm trying to install on the Google map that Kelsey would have passed while driving the girls to the trails, just to see if she pulled over, was there a good reason why? And the only name that comes up on this route that we're familiar with so far, excuse me, is the Carball residence right here. But if you continue down, I know it looks like a long way, but it's really a short drive from the Patties to the Mears lot. And so here's the Patties house. Here's their long in blue. Here's their long driveway. Kelsey would have came out of the driveway and turned right. We think that there's a possibility that because there was a little bit of a stall in the data where she may have stopped and someone got mail out of the mailbox. And this is where I believe the mailbox is. And then they come over here. And they turn right. Which, to be honest, this is the route that they took. And there appears to be a shorter route. And I'm not sure why she didn't take that route. But she didn't. And then we've got the Robinson branch. We've got the Oyer tool shop. And then we actually have a cell phone tower here along the way. And it appears, based on the data, that they, like right here before she's to turn right again, they veer off the road, right here. Somewhere in here is where they paused. And unfortunately, unless, let me see, this property right here, I have not been able to identify, that has all of the farm building, like the, I don't know what you would call them, the industrial farm buildings that are right here. I don't know who lives here at this address, but it's right in here that there was a pause, as if they turned off the road. or they pulled over and stopped. It could have been they needed to get something out of the truck, or I don't know. But they drive down here, they turn right, and then they make their way to Mears. They jag here, all the way over, past, they intersect right here at the corner of Logan's property, and then go to Mears. And I know that the line here indicates that they pulled into Mears, but based on Kelsey's testimony, they did not pull in. She pulled up right along the roadway on 300 North and stopped with the nose of her car still facing the roadway, which would be still facing Hoosier Harvest Store, and she let the girls out. So she never even pulled into the lot. And we know, let me see, we know, or I know, let me delete that. I know that from the Mears lot to drive to go past the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, which is right here, from here to here, if you leave here, the Mears lot, and you're passing the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, it's about 30 seconds. If you're driving a vehicle, much different when you're walking.
So, question if anyone in chat knows. Do you guys know how long there's a break in data on Libby's Apple Health where it would almost appear like they got in a vehicle until the next steps are made? Does anyone know that time? How long that pause was? If you do, please let us know.
Okay, say that again.
I'm wondering on the data on the phone, when it appears like they could be in a vehicle or something, because data stops and then it starts again, how long that time is before it starts again.
At what time frame?
218 to 225, all I says. Well, so it is 7 minutes because I just Google mapped the cemetery to Pat Westfall's house, and it's exactly 7 minutes.
Yes, that is true. We've done that before, and that is true. And yeah, and so when I go out there, I have every intention of getting to the south end of the bridge, and I'm going to utilize an app that will measure every step that I take. And basically, I want to go down the hill and utilize the information that we have, and then the pause, trying to figure out, okay, within this radius, because, you know, we don't know, like when the girls went down the hill, did they go down the hill and veer to the left? Did they go down the hill and veer to the right? Did they just keep going straight? Did they go to the private drive and go to the right and then go up towards Brad Weber's property and get in a vehicle? We don't know. What I want to do is I want to explore every possibility and show, okay, this is where all of this could have taken place, and see where it puts us. There's nothing like reenacting it in real time and on video that puts it in perspective for everybody.
That's going to be awesome.
So,
but I do find it interesting that if it's 7 minutes and defense provided the route from cemetery to Pat Westfall's house, they must have been interested in that.
Exactly. And well, we're going to get into all of that. So, hey, Cryptex. Looks like, so all I says, it looks like they stopped from 2:18:48 to 2:25:22 p.m. Yes. And
so you'll be able to get the data of from down the hill to the cemetery.
Yeah, my goal is to do all of that. And mainly to see if, like, I'm playing with this app that I've downloaded to see how it registers, especially going up flights. And I have every intention of crossing the creek. And even though the water level will probably not match, won't match what is, you know, conducive to what the environment was that day, I want to see how that embankment registers when I climb it, and just to see. So I kind of have a whole game plan in place, and you know, when I come back, I'll share it with I'll share it with everybody.
It's gonna be so cool.
Yeah. I'm probably going to have to extend my stay because I just don't, the time that I have allotted, I don't think I have enough time because I plan on going into a couple courthouses, etc. So we'll see. But all of it, I mean, all of it's going to come back to the channel so we can get a better idea. And hopefully, I mean, it's like, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You got to get out there, you know, boots on the ground. And if I have to put on waders, I have some. Well, they're not mine, but I have some available to wear. But I have kind of a whole little crew that I plan on being with that day. And
are they 5'4"? Are they 5'4"? Any of them?
5'4", yeah.
Put them in the water with you just to see how the hell Rick Allen would be able to wrangle two girls if the water is coming up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did. Fungi did a great. She did a great presentation on the water level that day, and how difficult it would have been for Abby to have crossed.
Yeah.
Based on her, you know, just based on her body structure, and the temperature and the terrain, and based on the conditions of the water and the flow. And if you haven't watched that, I really recommend everybody go watch it because I just think it's she breaks it down in a really good way. I mean, she breaks it, it's self-explanatory, and that's what I like doing. Like you know, I'm not technical at all. I'm not a technical person. I like to visually see things and put things in a format that, like, here I am going to show you, and that goes along the line of let me videotape it in real time and show you why what we're being spoon-fed by the state doesn't work. So for me, that's where I'm like, that's my forte. And then timelines. I love to work on timelines. So
did you see what Michael said? He said the creek was dead still today. Michael, and I saw your picture from outside the courthouse the other day too. What you up to?
He's
just
doing
kidding.
Stuff.
Don't say anything.
He's doing stuff. He's doing stuff.
Exciting.
No, I disagree that the water, I don't believe the water was still that day at all. And you can absolutely see that in the helicopter footage of the search party that was in the water. They literally had to do an arm-to-arm chain to get through the water. And it also depended on where the girls crossed. And that was one thing that Great Lakes broke down as far as, you know, the narrower the canal the water was flowing through, the faster it would be. And the depths, and based on all of the records that were pulled. So I just, and then I can't help but go back to all of the crime scene technicians who testified at trial, that every single time they were asked about was the clothes that Abby had on wet. They really could not give a straight answer. They basically would either by Nick McClellan be completely derailed and sent into a different direction, Or they would say, well, I might have taken note of the fact that the clothes were damp. Well, a pair of jeans submerged in dirty creek water at that time of year, then taken up into the woods, regardless of the sun shining, where they were found, they were in a bowl. They were in an area where, as the snow melted, the water melted, everything was trickling down into that bowl. Abby's clothes would have been absolutely soaked the next morning. And for them to describe them as damp tells me, okay, they probably weren't submerged in water. And
Right.
if they weren't submerged in water, were they carried? Common sense.
If you think about whoever put Libby's, like the leftover clothing pieces that they found in the stick and the rock in the water, like whoever put that there, who's to say they didn't wet all the clothes right in that spot? You know, without having no one crossing the creek at all. You know.
Well, yeah, like somebody walked down to the creek's edge and threw them in the water.
Right.
And if not that, then we're left to believe that the girls were made to strip of their clothing before they crossed the creek. And now we're left with the image of, you've got two girls. Hey, Spooky. We're left with two girls crossing the creek in the nude in broad daylight. Where's the phone?
So stupid.
Where's the phone? They were what, carrying their clothes to keep them above water, and the phone had to be in either girl's hands. And then they get to the crime scene area, and Abby's forced to redress. I do not believe Abby redressed herself. Abby put those clothes on because the sweatshirt and the jeans are reportedly Libby's. Libby's injuries would have saturated those clothes with her blood. So those clothes had to have been removed from Libby prior to the injuries. And Abby would have had to have put those on. If Abby had not put those on and they were put on after Abby had the cut to her throat, there would have been blood all over those clothes that belonged to Abby.
Well, they could have sacrificed Abby nude. And then it did appear that she had been almost like wiped down. She had to have been. There was no blood all over her or anything. And then the clothes could have been put on after she was wiped. I believe someone could have put them on her because they were the bigger clothes, because it would have been so difficult for someone else to put clothes on a dead body. They would have used the bigger clothes.
So you think there's a possibility that Abby was unalived and then redressed? You think that's a possibility?
Correct. After they wiped her down.
So okay, so let's take that perspective and apply it to the state's narrative that Rick Allen was terrified over the white van. He rushed the girls across the creek. 15 minutes before the white van passed, and then felt comfortable enough to kill them both and then take the time to redress Abby and perform the staging with the sticks.
Right. It's a lot to do. It's a lot to do for one man. Almost impossible, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, really, it is.
Do you want to get into Patrick?
Yes, let's get into Patrick.
Woohoo!
Okay, so where do we want to go first? Do we want to go to the arrest?
Yeah, that's a good starter. As we all know, Patrick Westfall was arrested with his son, Gabriel Westfall, on the 3rd going into the 4th. And some great people were able to pull up the documents on that. Probable cause affidavit. Shout out Sleuthy.
And it goes into, we have a lot of detail here about what happened. Can you, I don't know, do you want me to read it, or can you see it and you want to read it?
I can read it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so here is the original narrative. This is for the date and time of October 4th, 2025 at 3 a.m. and 12 minutes. I, Officer Dreher of the Crawfordsville Police Department, hereby swear and affirm that the following incident occurred on 10/3/2025 in Montgomery County, Indiana. I, Officer Dreher, sorry if I'm annihilating that, was advised by Lieutenant Haslam, not Holman, that a call for harassment was dispatched and she would need officers to be en route to 908 West Market Street and 1870 South US Highway 231, which is the location of a Buffalo Wild Wings in Crawfordsville. This was due to a female later identified by name and date of birth as Cassidy Richmond being threatened by her boyfriend, later identified by his Indiana driver's license as Gabriel Westfall. I was informed that Mr. Westfall had made some actual threats that needed to be investigated, and that Miss Richmond was in such fear that she had locked herself in the manager closed at Buffalo Wild Wings. I was also informed that Mr. Westfall was usually in possession of a pistol, specifically a .45 ACP caliber. I went to the residence of 908 West Market and did not find the male. Officers cleared the area, and Sergeant Tidro and I went to Buffalo Wild Wings. Once at Buffalo Wild Wings, I was directed by the staff into the kitchen, where I found Cassidy in a manager's office. Cassidy was wrapped in a blanket, and her mascara was running down her face from crying. Sergeant Tidro was first speaking to Cassidy. I learned that Cassidy had multiple text messages of threats from Gabriel. I also learned that Cassidy that Gabriel had made threats with his gun during a phone call. This phone call was not recorded. I also learned that Gabriel left Cassidy a voicemail. The following are different text messages sent to Cassidy from Gabriel. Gabriel, next time you turn your location off, I'm beating you the fuck up. Try me. Cassidy says, okay. Gabriel, turn that motherfucker off again. Cassidy, I understand. Gabriel, do it, I dare you. Cassidy, I understand. Gabriel, I'll give you 50. You do it because I will put hands on you. Stop thinking I'm a good person. I'm not. Another part of the conversation from text messages. Gabriel, I don't care who anyone is. I will put hands on anyone who fucking pisses me off. Play with me. Cassidy said, okay. Gabriel said, cool. If I find out you're talking to any boy at work, it's your ass. Cassidy said, Gabe, I don't want to see you if you're just going to continue to talk to me like this. Gabriel said, remember that. I don't give a fuck. The following is a transcript from a voicemail left from Gabriel to Cassidy on October 3rd, 2025 at 8:11 p.m. Gabriel, I will come to B-dubs and fucking give you a reason to block me. Quit fucking playing with me, Cassidy. I asked Cassidy if she wanted to press charges, and she advised that she did. At some point during our conversation, Gabriel called Cassidy. I answered the phone and told Gabriel that he should stop contact with Cassidy. He hung up. I told Cassidy that I would try to find Gabriel as I had probable cause for his arrest. Sergeant Tidro followed Cassidy to a residence, and I went to 102 West Main Street, Darlington, to attempt to find Gabriel. Multiple Indiana state troopers and Montgomery County Deputy Walls assisted in locating Gabriel. You go down. Okay, ensure that no one exited from the north. I knocked on the exterior porch door. A short time later, Gabriel came out. I ordered him to turn around, and I placed him into hand restraints, checking for the proper gap and fit. Gabriel was only wearing underwear, and he advised that his father, Patrick Westfall, was home and to retrieve him some clothes. I knocked again on the door, and Patrick opened it. I asked if I could accompany him in him into the residence to gather some clothes for Gabriel for officer safety, as there was information of firearms inside the residence. Patrick denied my entry to the residence, so I placed Gabriel into my patrol vehicle. Gabriel was searched incident to arrest, and a black THC smoking device containing a gold-like liquid substance was located on his person. Gabriel informed me that there were 3 or 4 firearms inside the residence. I was informed that Gabriel's father, Patrick, was a felon convicted of domestic battery and could not be in possession of firearms. I learned through the probation list that Patrick was also on probation through Montgomery County in case number blah, 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 which you cannot look up. Patrick re-entered the residence. I contacted Montgomery County Probation on-call officer Mark Bickle, who advised that officers could conduct a search of the residence. I informed Patrick of this, and he refused our entry again. I contacted Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office and was advised that we would apply for a search warrant of the residence. Once other officers arrived on scene, I left to receive the signed search warrant. I received this sign from Judge Petrie and went back to 102 West Main Street, Darlington. I made contact with Patrick via a telephone number for him provided to me by the Montgomery County probation list. I informed Patrick I had a signed search warrant for the residence and that he and any other occupants needed to exit immediately. After some deliberation, Patrick agreed to exit. His other son, Nicholas Westfall, also exited the residence. Patrick walked back to me, and I patted him down for weapons. In his right front pocket, I felt a large, hard plastic bulge. I was familiar with this as a package of wrapped cigarettes. I also felt a large plastic device in his pocket. I asked Patrick if he had asthma, and he advised that he had a medical issue from his time in the service.
This was a Sandifur inhalation aerosol inhaler.
I don't understand that. Once Patrick and Nicholas were found to have no weapons, I read the search warrant aloud at 12:38 a.m. I gave Patrick a copy of the search warrant. Other officers and I went to clear the residence. I made loud announcements at the front door advising it was police department and that we had a search warrant for any occupants to make themselves known now. I heard no noise from inside the residence. Other officers and I cleared the residence and found no individuals. We then conducted a search of the residence and located the following items. 1 single shot RIA Imports 410 shotgun, serial number blah, 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 and a safe in the closet of Patrick Westfall's room. 1 Taurus 9mm pistol, serial number blah, blah, located on the bed in the room to the right at the top of the stairs. 1 Glock 30 45 ACP, serial number blah, blah, located in the room to the right at the top of the stairs, and 1 AK-47 serial number blah, blah, located in the room to the left at the top of the stairs on top of a large black biker jacket. Multiple magazines for the AK-47, the 9mm, and the 45 ACP. Patrick admitted to the bedroom with the safe being his. Gabriel advised that the entire upstairs was his. Patrick told me he did not know the combination to the safe. Nicholas gave me the combination. However, inside the safe was multiple boxes of the Sandifur inhalation aerosol inhalers. These are the same as located on Patrick's person. I then located a motorcycle in the driveway. This returned to Patrick. Due to the shotgun located in the safe with Patrick's inhalers, because why protect the guns, protect the inhalers? Duh. And the AK-47 located on top of the large biker jacket, I found probable cause that Patrick was in fact in possession of a firearm as a domestic batterer. I placed him into hand restraints, and an Indiana state trooper transported him to the Montgomery County Jail. The search was completed, and I photographed the evidence seized. I left a return of the items seized on the TV stand of the living room. I placed all items seized into my patrol vehicle, and I left the scene. Patrick was remanded to jail staff on the charge of unlawful possession of a firearm by a domestic batterer.
That's all. That's all he was charged with.
And currently it's marked as a misdemeanor, by the way, which it's supposed to be a felony according to Indiana law. And maybe I'm wrong. Michael, do you know? When I looked it up.
He's a felon. He's a felon. He's not supposed to have a firearm. And that makes that should make these charges enhanced simply because he's a repeated offender of the same things. This goes back to a reoccurring stigmata in Indiana when it comes to domestic violence and men getting off and not being held accountable for, like, that's the son alone. Those text messages are terrifying. They're terrifying. And it's like whiplash back to, and what I've really wanted to do for a long time is to play on here the video because it's most relevant with. Now, none of these people are celebrities that are involved in any of these cases, but looking at the Cassie video of Puff Daddy kicking and beating on her in the hallway of the hotel room when she's attempting to leave, and you watch that video, and then people want to victim blame. Why wouldn't you leave? Why wouldn't you leave? There's all of these reasons why females don't leave. And first and foremost is because there's no protection. Nobody is held accountable. They're arrested. They're let out the same day. And they're then let to go and wreak havoc again. And it's sickening.
Anyone who says, why doesn't she leave, is someone who has not been touched by abuse or has no one in their life that's been touched by abuse, and they can go fuck themselves. Excuse me.
But I mean, but it always leads to something worse because it's almost like the prosecution in this case. The more they push and the more the boundaries are expanded, the more indifference they try to impose on the defendant, on us as citizens, like we're just going to buy what they're selling. And this is exactly what transpired in Ashley Garth's case. She was a victim of domestic violence. She was beaten, she was hogtied, she was duct taped, and they let Garrett Kurtz out within 10 days. He violated a restraining order that, like where I'm from, that violation immediately locks you up. But he's arrested and he's charged with invasion of privacy, which I see several times on Patrick Westfall's record. That's basically a violation of a restraining order. And Garrett Kurtz was let out the same freaking day, twice. And then went on to murder someone 14 days later, and then went on to murder someone else 16 days later.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I read this and it infuriates me because why these are public records, and for anybody in Patrick Westfall's family, ex-wife, daughter, who's listening, answer these questions. What has Patrick Westfall or any of your sons contributed to society that should elude or evade them from being held accountable? Why are the records squashed? Why are there redacted aspects of their record? And why are they continuously let out to repeat offend?
So was Garrett Kurtz ever in the military?
No.
Okay, so I don't know about him, but in my experience, I had a restraining order on my ex. He was arrested after strangulation attempt, and he was let out the next day. He posted bond. I got a restraining order on him. He violated it 2 different times at the same county, and both times he was let out the next day with no charges because he was a military vet. And then his case was transferred to vet court, much like Patrick's cases have been transferred to vet court, where he was allowed to do like a program and then have it expunged from his record. So this shit is.
That's great. I mean, like, that's great. And the thing is, I feel personally like anybody who is a military veteran should be held to a higher standard.
If anything, they have PTSD and more trauma. They're more dangerous.
Yeah, and Garrett Kurt's case, his claim to fame was his daddy and his grandpa were hunting buddies of Nick McClelland's entire family. And Nick McClelland told this, I have this in writing from Garrett Kurtz, that Nick McClelland said, "Don't worry, I got you," is what Garrett Kurtz told me Nick McClelland told him in regards to the charges in January of 2019. And anybody who has a question about why there was a change of direction in 2019 in regards to the old BG sketch and the new BG sketch, I have firsthand knowledge from law enforcement from Carroll County that it was because Garrett Kurtz was arrested on April 1st of 2019. And less than 2 weeks later, Carroll County, Doug Carter, held that presser saying that we have a new direction. And that was because they were hot and heavy believing that Garrett Kurtz was involved in the Delphi case. And he gave a DNA sample. They could not put him there, but they rode him like a pony for months and it went nowhere. But that was the change of direction in the sketches in the 2019 presser.
That makes sense. Because that kind of looks like him.
It does look like him, but it looks more like Daniel Pearson.
It does. Betsy Blair saw Daniel Pearson, period.
That's who I believe. Yeah, absolutely. She saw somebody. She didn't see Rick Allen, period.
Yeah. He's not, I mean, God bless him, but not young and beautiful. But, okay, I mean, yeah, that's a pack.
Let's go. Okay, so let's go to the chat. Let me see here. Shoo. I'm sure we're so behind. we're gonna do questions real quick before we go on to the next area.
Someone said, by the way, that you could use a .40 bullet in a 45. I don't know guns, so I say point. I don't know.
I don't know guns other than the fact that I know that they don't have wings. And when you put a law enforcement officer who is supposed to be, who is legitimately respected, and the jury is going to be all attentive, and you put him on the stand and he says, in the video, you're going to hear that be a gun, and you're going to hear the racking of a gun as intimidation. They're going to believe it. But never once did the state explain how when Bridge Guy comes off the bridge, when Abby and Libby are standing there and he says down the hill, and he racks his weapon to scare them or intimidate them, they never describe how this individual stopped to pick up this ejected unspent round and put it in his pocket. How did that bullet get to the other side of the creek at the crime scene? They never explained that, and the defense never questioned it.
Red Bull has wings.
The defense never raised it. Well, I guess it was all encompassing in the statement of the magic bullet. But that was never explained, how the bullet got from the south end of the bridge where the gun was supposedly racked, that we don't hear in the video, and we don't hear that be a gun, the most infamous words never spoken that were told to a jury. No one ever explains how that unspent round that was ejected at the south end of the bridge got to the crime scene. No one explained that.
They think he's just going around and just racking it all over the place.
Well, I guess the worst, I mean, the problem is that, and it's a catch-22, because I feel like we had now, okay, let me rethink my thoughts here. Based on the one juror that we heard from, which was quite demeaning when it comes to this is who we put the life of a man's hands into. Despite that, nobody else has come forward and spoken. And to that sentiment, I have to say that they probably had a really good juror or a jury. People who were not informed, people who had no clue and were there to do the right thing. But all of the things that they should have been told were excluded. And not knowing the background of the case and not knowing the thing, there were many things, and I get the defense was probably overwhelmed. And I cannot stab Andy and Rosie in the back claiming that they did a horrible job. I believe that they were dealing with the cards that they were dealt as they were dealt. And between being kicked off the case and dealing with the confuckery of the discovery that was taken away, then given back, disorganized, the third party suspect aspect of it being denied, and then you've got a man that they know is hanging on the brink of life in the circumstances that he was in. They did the best that they could do. And of course, hindsight's 2020. And I know that Andrew Baldwin recently said, I will throw myself on the sword if it means getting Rick another trial. And I took that as an affirmation that I will admit to any ineffective assistance of counsel claim that is raised because I believe that my client was innocent. And that is a good ass attorney. He's not worried about his self. He's not worried about, coming out of this smelling like flowers. He's willing to take any dagger thrown at him for missteps that were made. And there were many. And I just think that the angle that they just weren't well in tuned. And I agree when, you can call us YouTube creators, you can call us whatever you want, but I truly believe that we are the best alternative media source out there, because none of these, mainstream media, they spend 3 minutes on a segment discussing this case. And that's what the majority of the public hears. A lot of people aren't going behind the scenes to realize, oh my God, there's way more to this than what we knew. And for that extent, I feel like the jury that they had chosen were in that group. They all were there thinking that they were going to do the right thing for the right reasons, and they didn't have a lot of knowledge on the case, which is how it should be, which is why ethically and legally the prosecutor should be held to a higher standard in what they're putting forth in front of a jury. And yet here we have, lies upon lies and hidden discovery, hidden evidence, misconstrued timelines, and I still I get very frustrated with Baldwin and his and how can I explain it? I'm very frustrated in the fact that they still want to believe that, well, everybody took an oath, everybody should be doing the right thing. We're all working in we're all working in the presence that we're all doing the right thing. And my question is, what is it going to take for you to realize you are dealing with corrupt freaking people, and you cannot continue to think that their intentions are clear, cut and dried, the right thing? Like, at some point, what is it going to take for you to realize that you're dealing with people who are at all costs willing to send an innocent man into the depths of hell? At that point in time, you know, the gloves have to come off. The reality of the situation needs to be brought forth, and you need to start speaking the truth, because Nick McClelland and what he did in this case and what they did to Rick Allen is nothing more than pure torture, mental torture, and annihilation of a human being. And they want us to believe that it was all perfectly normal how a case like this should be handled. The safekeeping order, sending them off to Westville, the bullshit out there with, you know, and don't get me started on the information that I have from inmates who claim that they were threatened and they were forced to torment Rick 24 hours a day, threaten Rick's life, tell him lies, convince him that he just needed to kill himself. Or if they didn't do those things, they would be denied their commissary. They would be denied their yard time. They would be denied their phone time. Like there
statements from people saying they had to do that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that'll be handy in the future.
And unfortunately, none of these people, they want to send me this information, and they want to tell me the story, but they're not willing to go on the record. They don't want to come forward because they're afraid. Because
they have a reason to be fair.
They do. And you know, and we can I can spew that until the cows come home, and people can say, well, that's bullshit, that's a lie. However, it would explain these middle of the night phone calls that Rick was making, begging and pleading for help, then turning around an hour later and claiming, I think I might have done this, and I don't want you to be extorted. Extortion in prison is a real thing, you know, and people, it's sad. And it's sad that this is what the judicial system has come to. And it's few and far between where you find good prosecutors who are willing to, you know, look at a case and go, especially after a trial, when new evidence comes up, that they say, okay, we fucked up. I mean, you could have, I truly firmly believe that we could have a snuff film video in this case that would be presented to Nick McClelland, and he would deny it. He would still want to hang his hat on Rick Allen is guilty.
He needs him to be guilty. He knows. He's protecting people. Like, wasn't he Patrick's prosecutor or defense attorney in some cases?
Do what?
Wasn't McClelland the defense attorney for Westfall sometimes?
Multiple times.
Right. So he probably told him, don't worry, I got you too. Because we have Patrick saying a bunch of shit that no one can correlate, and then he contradicts all the time. Like, apparently this 4.5 hour polygraph he took. Is there any evidence of that polygraph that he says he passed?
No.
I've never heard of evidence of that happening, but he claims he took a 4.5 hour polygraph and passed.
Well, he claims a lot of things, and I have. Well, I think I sent you some of them today. There's major contradictions, and sleuth intuition who interviewed him not once but twice, since the arrest of Patrick Westfall, has deleted the interviews. And then there's a third interview of Patrick Westfall that Frank Meister did. And thank God, I recently had all 3 interviews transcribed. So I had them because I had planned on covering them, but I didn't want to get any kind of a strike or anything like that based on, replaying a video for another creator. And I have nothing against Sleuth Intuition. I don't agree on his opinions or his viewpoints. And luckily I had them all transcribed. So we have them and I will make them available. And then I've dissected them. And the biggest there's 2 main factors in Patrick Westfall's interviews that strike me the wrong way. One being, in his interview, he makes multiple statements. Well, you have to, it's almost like he's coming on Sleuth Intuition's channel for the first time each time. And he forgets what he said. So a liar always forgets what they lie about, and they make mistakes. And that's pretty much what Patrick Westfall did. And at some point within these 2 interviews, and I will make these transcripts available, he claims he doesn't know Anna. Then he turns around and he claims, oh yeah, I knew her from the military because a family member of hers, I don't know if it was a sister or a brother, I think it was her sister, was dating a guy in the same military branch that Patrick was in. And he goes into detail on Sleuth's channel how, oh yeah, I remember her. We would all meet out at a bar and she would have a baby in the carrier. And he proclaimed that he thought it was Abby. It was probably Abby as an infant in this carrier, which he says about 10 years ago. But at the time of this interview, it had to have been at least 15 years ago. Okay. Then and then later on, he describes meeting Anna in a bar.
Do you have this on your screen? Are you supposed to?
No, I have it in writing.
Okay, go ahead. I was just making sure.
I'm just talking. The binder report that I have. So I've been compiling for like 2 months now because the vault is going into, we were going into the Odinist aspect of it. I've been combining all of this information. Westfall's background check and all of his interviews transcribed and some of the documents on his My Case. Hey, Julie, I sent you a message. I need you to respond. So anyway, he then in Sleuth's interview says, well, yeah, I seen Anna in a bar. I bought her a drink, etc., etc. And that was the extent of it. But then we find out in Anna's deposition that, yeah, she knew Patrick Westfall from years before. They ran into each other in this bar, and I believe it was the Office Tavern in Delphi. And they exchanged numbers. And then a little bit more went on through the deposition and how she communicated with Pat after that meeting. And then we have like X amount of pages redacted. You can't see what the hell's being said. And then when the unredacted part of the deposition is printed, Baldwin is asking her, well, where did this conversation take place? And she says, at Patrick's house. What?
What? Was this before or after their murders, by the way?
After. And this whole scenario was discussed on Sleuth Intuition's interviews, that he met her in a bar, bought her a drink, but never once did he ever state that she came to his house. And we don't know, hey, Indy Cindy, we don't know, okay, I pray to God, for Abby's sake, this was before the Franks memo came out.
Right.
What was she thinking after the Franks memo came out?
It almost feels like guilter's remorse a little bit too. He's like, oh, I gotta suddenly visit and see Anna all the time. What the fuck is that?
Oh, hold on 1 second. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Oh God.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I will pull this up in a little bit, but I have a feeling it's important. So let's now go to some, let me see. So next, I'm going to bring up, and I'm going to apologize in advance for the redactions, but the redactions are meant to protect the identity of the individuals communicating in this correspondence, and you can take it for what it's worth. Let me take that off. You can take it for what it's worth. I did my best to redact. I was given permission to share this information, and I felt the need to protect the person who shared it with me. And I'm going to honor protecting the person that they were communicating with. And you can take it for what it's worth. But this next correspondence is in regards to a inside look of what was transpiring in 2017 in regards to Patrick Westfall and the different groups moving in and out of, I guess, like your Aryan Brotherhood, which is going to be, you're going to see it referenced in here. It's going to be considered AB. And how these people operated. So ignore the redactions. That is for safety reasons, to keep people safe and to prevent anybody trying to track an individual down. And I hope to God that the redactions that I did are suffice.
Glad it wasn't me doing them.
Yeah, it was. So this is correspondence that has taken place in the last 2 years. And the redacted parts are to extinguish who's speaking and who the individual represents and who's corresponding to and from. Other than that, it's open game. So these are emails that are going back and forth that were shared with me. and to the person who shared them, I'm so grateful that you gave me permission to use them. So here we go. I served as the state 2016, 2017. Left that out, who they were, who they represented. In 2016, various white supremacist Norse pagan groups started attending political rallies around the state. Our organization started monitoring these groups and assessing them. This led to determining that these groups were closely linked to the Indiana Department of Corrections, and that Patrick Westfall was a high-ranking figure connected to almost every single group and organization in the huge sphere of influence, both in the IDOC and on the outside. He is an individual that makes sure orders from the inside are carried out. If something needs taken care of on the inside, he's making the call. He is a big fish and very much feared. However, I do know his publicly available criminal history represents about half of his criminal history. And if you look at the most recent cases, well, the outcomes don't line up with someone with his history. He seems to get a lot of cases sealed, and he seems to get a lot of probation he violates without consequence. Infer from that what you will. In my opinion, it's damn suspicious. Also, in 2016, 2017, we started to see an influx of memberships, applications from interviews with ties to the Norse white supremacy groups, one of which was from Mr. Brad Holder. This one was notable because he was rather upset blank rejected his membership. He had no felony convictions that would exclude his membership, and beyond that, any affiliation with North paganism with a no-go. Our reasoning was simple. You couldn't find anyone wearing an Odin chain or tattoo that wasn't an arm's length from a convict with links to the Aryan Brotherhood. The other thing that stood out to me is he was a very conspicuous group hopper. He was always looking for something to join. A couple weeks, a couple months, and he would join something else. There's a lot of changing and movement within these Odinist groups, but you don't see many lone wolves. A group will split, one group will join another, but Brad Holder never had anyone else following with him. It kind of seems to me almost that he was nosy and wanted to see what everyone else was doing. It seemed purposeful. Also, in a very random coincidence, I met blank a couple of years ago, 2022. Strange in hindsight, given the circumstances. Certainly makes me question some of the narratives around the leaks, but I didn't exchange any words with him other than hello, so I don't have anything to offer on him. Sorry, I can't release that. I can't release that name because it could then link back to who was speaking. But then again, official misconduct is never easy to uncover. Their investigation ended by default of Ferenczi getting killed, and I don't know if that's a red flag or just a coincidence. And by the way, this conversation is a back and forth, and I'm not going to identify who is who. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. I don't think my disdain for Holman is a secret, so it probably seems like a loaded question to ask. But do you think Holman is dirty or has any insight when it comes to him? I can't make a sense of some of his other years' long unsolved cases. I can't tell if he's dirty, legitimately stupid, or if I'm wrong about him being either. Did you know Rozzy used to be a CO and his brother is a state trooper? I don't think he would be throwing mud at law enforcement just to help a man he thinks murdered 2 little girls. Him and Baldwin were both very successful and well respected before this case. They didn't have a need to make a name for themselves. So I just have a hard time even entertaining the notion that they're all dirtbags trying to win by specifically naming the law enforcement officers they've named. I get that ISP is a large organization and that not all cops or agencies or departments are above gang shit. I just can't make sense of the dynamics in Indiana. I still don't think Fortson ever wanted to leak more than the F tree pick, and that he was livid when Mark crossed the line, leaking the crime scene pics of the girls the way they were found. But beyond that, I don't know what to make of him. I don't know why Holman went after him the hardest, especially now that we know at least one person connected to Libby's was outed for sending them, in parentheses, and pictures of the Flora fire scene to someone in February of 2023, long before Fortson had them. Do you think that guard who got the Odin shit tattooed on his face after they wouldn't let him wear his patches is a true believer or just a AB? Sorry for the late reply. I am on vacation. Blank. And methods at the time for memberships involved a standard background check, references, social media checks, and we also had access to Spillman, which would allow us to see much more criminal information than would appear. Hold on, lost my place. Which much more would appear in a background check or on a public access tool like MySpace. As far as monitoring other groups, we would utilize all of the above plus human intelligence. These Norse pagan groups were always around to some extent. It wasn't until 2016 that they started coming out of the shadows and getting politically active and doing so publicly. When I say they are linked to the IDOC, which is the Indiana Department of Corrections, it's important to understand the structure, or for that matter, lack of structure. Your typical onus group is merely 3 to 5 guys. Each group is fairly autonomous, I guess you could say. They do their own thing, their own way. The leader, if you will, of one of these groups was either indoctrined to Norse beliefs in prison or was introduced to it by someone that picked it up in prison. I couldn't find a single guy doing that it was more than one person away from a current or former convict. In this way, they operate just as the cartels do with their use of street gangs. So before I go on, do we want to go to questions in the chat or comments?
I believe Osbrook said if we have any proof of the of what they're talking about in the email, but I would say that's safe to say no.
Yeah, I mean, this is correspondence going back and forth between 2 individuals that was shared with me, and all we can do, this is speculation. Thank you, the state of Indiana. That's all we're left with. And
we do want to speculate.
Yeah, we're going to speculate all day long because that's all we have.
That's all I do.
That's all we have the opportunity to do. Right.
Yeah, I just make theories up in my head as I go.
Okay, so I had to take off the comments on the screen so I can read the bottom portion of this. So, my thoughts on Brad Holder being at the hearing. He was there to intimidate Amber. I don't think McClellan would risk putting him on the stand as a witness for the hearing. And hold on, this writing gets really small. I don't think that Nick McClellan would put him on the stand for the hearing. And I don't, hold on, I can't see it. Hold on. And I don't think he's dumb enough to actually put himself in that position. As far as the 3%er tattoo, I'm not sure who has that. As far as the 3%er tattoo, it's a commonplace, especially in the first. This writing is so small, and I made it as big as I possibly could. Especially in the rural parts of Indiana. 99% of the people with them have no membership or affiliation with the national organization. I can't recall much on Westfall's criminal history. He never applied for membership, and I'm assuming that is to Vinlanders or anywhere else. He never applied for membership, so I didn't do much digging into his criminal history. It was also a given at that point that everyone in these circles was an ex-convict. He came onto our radar initially when he showed up at a Second Amendment rally with the Vinlanders. That would have been probably early 2016. I'll note that it was odd from the standpoint that most of these people couldn't even legally own firearms. His connections with all these smaller groups is really what made him stand out. He seemed to be a popular figure that these people looked up to, and everyone wanted to be friends with him. From there, it is a human intelligence that started.
So what's interesting too is even he mentions here too about how half of Patrick's criminal history you can't even find. Like, and a great example of that right now is that we find out Patrick Westfall currently was on probation for a case that we have a case number for in the PCA, except you can't even access the case when you look it up on My Case, likely because it was in vet court. And that's probably how a lot of this stuff gets off his record, because it's all happening in vet court. So who the frick knows what he was even on probation for?
So I'm going to let you read this. Can you see this? Because
yes,
I'm going to let you read this one. This is the next part of the conversation. They're talking about the organization itself.
Okay. Where I don't have any specific, that one.
It starts with mapping out the connections.
Got you. Okay. Me. Just kidding.
My cat is he's trying to, he wants attention.
Oh.
This is my black cat.
I have a black kitty too.
Yeah, he's a black cat.
What's his name?
Jacoby.
Oh, that's so cute. Mine says Binks.
Him's a Jacoby.
Binks. Okay. Mapping out his connections. I've never heard his name in relation to the Flora fire. This part I find very interesting. I've never heard his name in relation to the Flora fire. I have always and consistently heard it was the mother, which is what a lot of people try to push, which is not a fucking thing. Anyway, I don't have any specific knowledge of the FBI being in Delphi when the murders occurred, but I do have a lot of questions in general of where and what the FBI was doing at the time. It doesn't seem by the court filings that Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy were assigned to investigating Westfall and crew leading into the murders. I could be wrong. but I get the impression their investigation of Holder was specifically in relation to the Delphi murders, which begs the question, who was investigating these Odinists up to and at the time of the murders occurring? We were all being watched. Somebody was certainly assigned to these guys, but who? Another JTTF, ISP, Carroll County? The explanation for pulling Messer's patch seems reasonable to me. The Vinlanders were kind of the SS of the AB in Indiana. They viewed themselves as an elite group. Messer unwelcomed himself everywhere he went. He wasn't Vinlander material. If he wasn't kicking up attacks for dealing, I'm sure he would have been found dead in the woods himself. So he was dealing and paying up to the Vinlanders, it sounds like. I'd like to know what Ferenczi was working on when he was killed. Maybe we'll get a glimpse at Meehan's trial, but I don't have much hope. That's just a different part of the state I try to avoid. An unusually large number of drugs move through there. The white supremacist groups have converged over there. It's just weird in general. I've never heard a good thing said about Holman. He's definitely not well liked by the rank and file. Is he dirty? That really just depends on your definition of a dirty cop. ISP is a pretty good law enforcement agency. How it's managed to drop the ball so spectacularly in this case is conspicuous. Holman went after Fortson so hard because Fortson was crucial in connecting the link to Westerman. That much makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense is why Westerman would have shared such information with someone that wanted to be a police officer and had a bunch of friends in ISP. That's pretty ballsy. Fortson could have turned him in straight away or let something slip to one of his friends. Friend or not, that's a lot of risk. I also can't fathom that Fortson wasn't aware the information he was passing was going straight back to the prosecution. He was watching the content creators. He definitely would have seen where the information he was giving Mark was landing. The only thing I can think is that for some reason he felt he would be protected like Mark was, and instead they were more than willing to torch him to get what they needed on Westerman. This thing with the guards really highlights the confusion with Odinism. First, their dominant prison gang in Indiana is the AB. Like most gangs, they use symbolism as a form of identification and communication. A lot of the symbols they use are derived from Norse paganism. A particular symbol may be derived from a rune, but its meaning may have little to no relation to its meaning in Norse pagan religion. It may be drawn a particular way at one facility and drawn a little bit differently at another. It's great for the fact that you can arrange the pattern with a variety of objects and it would be unnoticeable to a layperson. Inside the prison, these symbols and references are identifiers, and their significance to the gang takes precedence over any other meaning or usage. A guard may be heavily invested in pagan heathenry in his personal time, but once he steps in behind those walls, any display of symbology in that genre takes on gang connotations. So whether the guard was true believer or not, the patches and tattoos inside the prison are absolutely meant to communicate his affiliation with the AB. Can someone tell me what the hell the AB is?
Aryan Brotherhood.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have one more page of this. And
Do you want me to read?
sure, go ahead.
I'm just now getting caught back up. I apologize if it becomes a novel by the time I'm done writing. Every email I send should probably have a no rush getting back to me disclaimer because I tend to be a handful when I'm looking for insight. I actually have so many questions for you personally, but there's a ticking clock on a man I believe to be innocent, and I'm trying to stay focused on what the fuck is happening in the counties and prisons running this case off the rails. I imagine you can't or won't be able to answer some of my questions, but I hope you'll forgive me for asking them anyway. Without getting into methods and sources, when you say y'all started monitoring them for assessment, how extensive was this process? Are we talking basic background checks and watching them just long and consistent enough to gauge their temperament, or link analysis and intelligence reports? When you say these groups were closely linked to IDOC, are we talking standard prison gang shit among former and current inmates, or cartel members becoming DEA and Border Patrol agent type shit? I haven't known how to contextualize AB in any of this with the exception of Johnny Messer, although it's hard to tell from the outside if that was a short-lived loose association or an actual affiliation situation. Every org is plagued with one falling out after another, but the supposed reasons behind the Norse pagan pretenders are so strange to me. One day they're banishing someone for cross affiliations, and the next they have a new wardrobe and club. Not all of them, and maybe not most of them, but enough of them not to notice. Now my cat's going. I'm pretty sure Holder has been a snitch for quite some time, but I missed this part. I'm pretty sure Holder has been a snitch for quite some time, but I cannot make any sense of Westfall. I've been told they're both extremely violent men, Messer too for that matter, but that Westfall is an actual savage. I doubt we'll ever learn if this shitstorm played a significant role in Fortson's choice to take his life, but it doesn't sit well with me how many people casually smear him as a leaker doing the bidding of some dirtbag defense attorneys. I'm aware that Fortson and Mark leaked the picture of the F tree, but I don't think Fortson ever had any intention of leaking pictures of the girls. I don't think he'd have ever shared them with Mark if he thought Mark would ever cross that line, and I think he probably unraveled when Mark did. Fortson was in the middle of an oh fucking shit situation when Holman showed up. To me, Holman is just a Westfall with a badge, an unthinking savage with no honor whatsoever. They find out where to press, and then they proceed to overkill levels. Holman knew what he was doing by showing up in the middle of Fortson's workday. So many cases Holman's worked on have gone off the rails. Do you have any insight into why Shane Meehan went lone wolf on the FBI resident building? His wife and kids seem genuinely shocked and torn up by what he did. She's only made a few public statements, but she seems to genuinely view what he did as a mental illness situation. I know what I think the situation looks like, despite what it looks like to his wife. I just don't know. Sorry for the late reply. I am on vacation. Oh, wait. Did we? Methods at the time of membership involved background checks, references.
Yeah, that might be a repeat. I might have had them out of order, but I couldn't. Yeah. I couldn't tell which was which. But that is. Have we read this part?
No. Matter lack. Yeah. Go ahead. Matter lack of structure. Your typical Odinist group is merely 3 to 5 guys. Each group is fairly autonomous. They do their own thing, their own way. The leader, if you will, of one of these groups was either indoctrined to Norse beliefs in prison or was introduced to it by someone that picked it up in prison. I couldn't find a single guy doing it that was more than one person away from a current or former convict. In this way, they operate just as the cartels do with their use of street gangs. Guys like Westfall are the bridge between these disorganized smaller groups and the shot callers for the AB. Guys like Messer and Holder are the useful idiots. In the end, all these guys want to be important, want to be a leader, so these smaller groups are always splitting or merging. Now, in IDOC, the AB is the dominant gang in most facilities. Correction officers working for or with the gangs is nothing new. The allegations of the Odinist guards at Westfall didn't surprise me. It's commonplace. I never saw anything this explicit of infiltration, more of a corruption by opportunity. Having said all of that, very few of these Odinists actually buy wholeheartedly into the religious aspects of Norse paganism. They like the symbolism and the idea they are descendants of Viking gods. For most, it's very superficial. The Norse paganists have a touch of elitism amongst the white supremacy crowd. I didn't find anything on Holder that would indicate he was anything other than a guy playing paganism to be cool. Nothing to indicate he was dangerous or particularly violent. He had a lot of friendships and associations with people that weren't in the criminal or white supremacist worlds. Westfall, however, is highly capable, not only with his own hands, but he had a lot of people around him that would do anything he told him. In hindsight, I find it odd that the JTTF wasn't following him. Leads me to believe he was either working with another agency or another agency had informants feeding them information on his movements. I've never heard of Meehan outside of the Ferenczi murder. That situation is definitely suspicious. I don't know too many details on it, but it sounds like a well-executed ambush. Did Meehan work at FCI Terre Haute? Terre Haute, whatever.
Terre Haute. So, there's that. That's a lot.
It's a lot. If you're planning on wrapping up soon, can we look at all the contradictions too?
Yeah, which ones? because I have several uploaded.
All the just good ones. I think one so Patrick Westfall in his interviews has been caught lying repeatedly, or saying one thing like you were saying earlier, but then in the next interview he'll say something different. One good example of that is I was seeing in a transcript that he had identified someone in the Franks memo as being more in the dark level of Asatru. I guess there's levels to it now, according to Westfall. And one of the people in the Franks memo actually was involved in the Loki, like a Lokian part of it, which apparently is where it gets much darker. And I was informed that in an interview he had said that Johnny Messer was likely into Loki and all that shit, right? Kind of like suggesting that it was Johnny Messer that might be the one into the dark ship. But then I find in another transcript that he says Johnny Messer was never into that shit, like at all. Like he was playing pretend and wasn't even good at pretending he was into it. So that's just one example.
So I have a boatload of documents that call out these contradictions. I'm trying to find which one we need to go through, which one I need to pull up. Let me see. I'm trying to see which ones I sent you today. I mean, I've been working at this all day. No, that's the same thing. How about we just talk about them so I don't have to worry about it? Okay, so, and if I, let me see.
And Pat is a very good liar, because my mom literally watched that recent Hulu documentary and was like, oh, he looks like such a nice young man. I was like, mother, he's like the worst.
And that's another point that I think I already made it. Like he is a smart person. Like he knows what to say, when to say it, how to put it off. But if you go through all of, let me pull it up, which there's absolutely no way we can go through all of this in one live tonight. But I have, there's one thing that I wanted to bring up, and that is in his background check, which I'm going to speed through here. Good luck screenshotting that. The address that he reportedly lived at in Delphi isn't on his recent background check.
I noticed that too.
But there is a Delphi address where he's living on Main Street in an apartment. But
if you look up 726, it has his daughter listed.
It has his daughter listed now?
Correct, as living there, or maybe a past resident.
Well, then so it was a rental property. We know that from his own words, and we know that I know that from the property records, because that 726 St. Charles was not owned by Patrick Westfall. It was a rental property. So then that means he rented the property in his daughter's name?
Possibly. Oh, and she would have been young at the time too, which a lot of parents do that shit. It's illegal, but they do it.
So here is, and if any, listen, I'm not going, join my Facebook group, because this whole thing will be posted. this whole file that I have will be posted. I can post it in there, but these are the transcripts from Patrick Westfall's interviews with. He did 2 with Sleuth Intuition, and he did 1 with Frank Meister, and they're both transcribed in here. And again, I'm going to reiterate, one of the biggest takeaways is that he completely omits in his interview about Anna Williams coming to his house. Then 2, and these are not any order of importance. Number 2, he talks about how nobody was ever at his house. Like, no one came to my house. Then he goes on to say the only people that were at my house were Brad and his girl and their kids. And then he goes on to say that they did ceremonies at his house and everybody came to his house. Then he's asked about Brian James, and he claims he does not. First he says, I don't know Brian. I don't know who that is. This is the first time I'm hearing that name. And then later, and interestingly, Sleuth doesn't call him out on it. He just lets him keep talking. He claims that he ran into Brian James at several events, including a Trump rally, where they stood side by side and had a conversation, and then went on to talk about this big party or meeting that was at Mickey McGillis, however you say it, his house. They all went back to Mickey's house for a party. And I mean, and the connector with Brian James that's important is the fact that Brian James, according to Taylor Hornady's deposition, Brian James was like a father figure to Johnny Messer. And they hung out for years. And we know that Johnny Messer knew Rod Abrams, Brad Holder, and the rest of the crew down there in Westville. So that was my biggest takeaway from these transcribed. And then I have read the transcript. I forget her name. She is the woman who provided the prosecution with Brad Holder's time card information. And it's very sketchy. And then you find out that there's all of these posts that he's working out at different times of the day and different times of the night. And there's Facebook check-ins, which I will be the first to tell you that on Facebook, you don't have to physically be at the location to check in there. And it just seems that between the 13th and the 14th, there's a lot of, if you want to look at it like creating an alibi, Brad Holder was doing just that. He was doing things that made his whereabouts so difficult by checking in on Facebook, then having his membership card swiped at, what was it, Anytime Fitness?
Yep.
That you just really can't track his whereabouts. However, the one thing that stood out to me that I thought, is Brad Holder a Patrick Westfall patsy? And that was in Brad Holder's deposition, where he's asked, did you reach out to Patrick Westfall when Abby went missing? And he said, yeah, I think I did. I think I texted him and said, hey, my son's girlfriend is missing. Have you heard anything about it? And he said, I don't remember the details, but I remember Patrick claiming he was out of town.
But then Pat saying he was at home with his kid.
Right.
I am, the way my brain is going right now, I thought perhaps Brad was like, it was all his bright idea, but now I'm leaning towards Pat being kind of the leader and Brad just really wanting to be involved in this shit. Just like really wanting to be included.
Well, and you know, there's been a couple, I know that I Patrick Westfall makes Brad seem like a peon. You know, like he's a joke. He's not really committed to anything. However, when you're dealing with somebody like first and foremost, these two men served together in the military. They were overseas. They fought a war together. And when you look at the two of them now, back when the Franks memo came out, Patrick Westfall's name wasn't really up front and center. It was Brad Holder. And at that time, when you went to Brad Holder's social media, there is undoubtedly enough proof to show that he was into runes. He was into the religion, the Asatru. You can call it Asatru, Norse pagan, whatever. He appeared online to be dedicated. And the one thing that gets me is if Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall were buddies, and when you look at the post and you look at what Brad Holder was saying, Brad Holder was not holding back at all when it came to claiming he is the leader of their kindred. And he was going to step down as the Gothi of the Gunther. The Gunther tribe it's a symbolism for Odin's sword, basically. And he was going to step down as the leader of the kindred and pass it on to Patrick Westfall. And if Patrick Westfall is the prominently dominant person in this duo, why would Brad Holder be putting online his role and making it out as if Patrick Westfall was somebody who was going to inherit his role? So for me personally, I think Brad Holder was a wannabe, but how far would a wannabe want to go to prove to prove their worth? Or go ahead.
I was just going to say, Anne, is the little church they created together, were they taking the Asatru that they were already practicing to a darker level together? And was that the purpose of creating this new little church? That's what I question.
And I think all I got from Brad Holder's deposition was basically an I don't know theory. Every single time he was asked about Amber and her statements about all of the things that he was supposedly telling her, like, there was falling out by a river, during a ceremony, you got to stay away from him. I can't protect you. And Patrick Westfall has people who are high in power and he's dangerous. Like, Brad Holder in his deposition didn't deny any of that. He just stated he didn't understand why Amber would say it.
Right. Amber says he straight up said that Patrick did it.
Yeah. And I can understand. I'm sure nobody's ever reached out to Brad Holder and said, we got your back if there's something that you want to get off your chest. You know, he's always been a suspect. And I feel, and the thing is like, my philosophy is the loudest person in the room has the least to say. And that would be Patrick Westfall. Like he's smart enough to get ahead of this freight train and do interviews and make statements that he thinks is going to keep him out of the gray area, but then turn around and not remember what he stated. And, you know, it's especially with the whole Anna Williams thing. I'm sorry, but here you are named in a fucking Frank's motion as an individual who is running as a shot caller to make something like this happen, where 2 little girls are set up to be murdered. And he's trying to clear his name by going on Sleuth's channel and doing an interview. And he fails to discuss that the mother of the victim came to his house.
And suddenly they have this like past historic relationship, and it's her daughter that ends up killed. And then you have the rumors of her being a race traitor. And how much would that piss Patrick off, knowing her, right? Like
Right.
having a history with her and knowing her and knowing now that, oh, wait a minute, she's contributing to the annihilation of my race.
Well, and in the deposition that wasn't redacted, because the majority of it was redacted, and the only reason that we know that she went to his house because that's where the redaction stopped. And she said another conversation took place at his house. And then she goes on to say, now I understand why the kids were there. The kids were where?
At
Where
the
were
house, at the meeting for the fucking church.
Right. Now I know why the kids were there. But my thing is they were there for the meeting. They were there during a meeting that he adamantly denies, or why the kids say, for example, I can see like teenagers like, oh God, our parents are fucking ridiculous. We're going to go over here to Canal Park. And that's where he meets Abby.
Well, you're supposed to bring your children to these. You're supposed to bring these children to these meetings. You're supposed to indoctrinate your children by making them go to these things as well. So them showing up and making them, thank you, Spooky. Them making them come to the meeting. I'm sure at some point they get to leave, right? When it gets like weird. So I could see them leaving.
And that's where.
But also, I want everyone to know that it is without a doubt that part of a Vinlander initiation type shit for probates is to get like an animal of some kind, and you make the probate like fall in love with the animal, like a pig or whatever. You have them take care of it, nurture it, blah, blah, blah. You bring the animal with you to the meetings as a probate. And then when you have your initiation or whatever to prove loyalty to the Page, you are then supposed to sacrifice that loved animal. So I go to the fact, was someone making Logan take Abby to these meetings? And was that important to Patrick because he knew what the mom was up to? These are just possibilities, but that would be in my brain why Logan might be bringing Abby around to the meetings, and why someone like Brad Holder, why would he make Logan sacrifice his girlfriend and shit? Well, to prove loyalty to the church and to the shit they have going on.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't, I mean, you just can't get away from the fact that the things that Amber Holder claimed that Brad told her align, and that's what's, and I guess in Brad Holder's interview, he didn't deny really a whole lot. I mean, he had excuses for, his whereabouts or whatever. We were supposed to be out looking for the girls, and we know law enforcement attempted to contact them that night and they couldn't find them. They went to their house. So that makes what he's saying a lie unto itself. But the things that Amber Holder claimed, Brad really didn't deny. He just said, I don't know why she would say that. And I feel like Brad Holder was way, I don't want to say committed, but he was willing to, look at his social media. That's all that you have to do. You have to look at his whole page from February 2017 backward, how dedicated he was to being involved in this religion. And what went wrong? Like, I just feel like Patrick Westfall may have ordered something, did something, and used the fact that Brad Holder had extensively, publicly put out all of these images of runes, bind runes, discussing the religion, discussing the narrative of what they were doing. Was it a setup? And here's the kicker, if this fucking group of people were involved, because there's other groups of people that we can run down the line that have just as many connections to this case that make you go,
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, like, you could go down so many paths that could actually make sense. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been on here for 2.5 hours. I think we need to do this again.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I have several documents that we haven't gone through tonight, and they're documents of basically what should I say? They're basically taking all of the depositions, the Todd Click report, and commingling them all together and pulling out the contradictions. And I started this about a month and a half ago, and I'm still adding to it. And it's interesting. Word for word, it shows you in the Patrick Westfall interviews what he said. And then literally in the same the Brian James shit is the biggest for me in the Patrick Westfall interviews on Sleuth's channel. He literally claims I don't know who that is. I'm hearing it now for the first time. Those are his words.
Like, okay, bro, there's pictures of you.
Yeah. And then down the line, he's asked about it again, and he elaborates on his interaction with Brad or with Brian James. That doesn't make him a murderer. It just makes him a liar.
And why are you lying all the time?
Exactly. It makes him a liar. Just like Johnny Messer rescheduling his deposition, sending the ex-girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, to do hers, and sending his wife. And then I provided you the screenshot that a follower on the channel sent me who had communicated with Taylor, where she said, I recorded the whole thing. Why? Why are you recording your deposition to provide to your ex-boyfriend if the facts laid out, you weren't involved. You don't know what happened. You weren't there. Your work records prove it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who goes to that extreme? I mean,
Right. I'd like to get Taylor Hornaday's DNA for that women DNA that we have unknown.
that well,
But I would love to do this again with you anytime.
yeah,
It was
You
so
were-
much fun.
it was. And if you, I mean, Shboogies, if you see questions after we log off, feel free to answer. I'll do the same with anybody who's on the replay crew. But thank you for being here. And yes, I am trying. Yes, I am trying to put together a marathon event of YouTube creator collaborations and some people who aren't creators. For example, well, I'm not going to give an example, but I'm working on this, trying to map it out. I have a handful already and topics that they want to discuss, but that my goal is to do a presentation that's not like your normal live, you know, where we talk about one certain aspect of the case. I want everybody who signs up to participate to have free reign and present as if they were presenting a live of their own, an aspect of this case that they feel well versed in and have a lot of information in, and we will take it from there. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And while the appeal is pending, I feel this is something that would be great for the community, and we can definitely get some information out there. Like, I know if a lot of you creators out there are like me or like Shboogies or everyone else, there's things that we have information on, and it sucks that, I mean, what I really need to do is do a fucking roundtable on like a, what do you call it? A Zoom call.
You
Like
better
a Zoom-
you better do an Operation Werewolf. Sorry, but
Yeah.
Fiend is in there like, can I do a piece on Operation Werewolf?
Yeah, I mean, something to that effect, that beforehand we all come together and discuss our theories, and no one's theory is wrong, period. No one's theory is wrong. There's so many facets to this case and so many tentacles, but this would give everybody the opportunity to, you know, like say we're supporting Rick Allen, we're supporting justice reform, which has to happen, and there is no excuse for a prosecutor to do what's been done in this case, and we have to fight it, period. Otherwise, everybody can just sit back, shut the fuck up, and if you're arrested, just take it. Just take it.
Just take it.
Just take it. You know, hopefully they give you a safekeeping order and they send you off to a fucking high maximum prison, and they deprive you of all of your civil rights, and they abuse you, and then they start to inject you with a drug that you don't want to be injected with because you feel you don't need it. You know, just take it. And as long as you're all down for that, then hey, what the F? You know, shut the fuck up and go on.
Bend over and take it. What?
Yeah, like everybody coming together is what needs to happen. And if some of the current cases that we've all followed are a prime example of how corruption works and how capable law enforcement is to playing hide the ball. And if you think that's okay, then take it. Otherwise, stand up, speak out, and get on board with defending are, you know, defending your civil rights. And in this case, that starts first and foremost with Rick Allen. His civil rights were violated massively. You can think he's guilty. And I embrace everyone who comes and watches these videos that think that he's guilty. Well, there's no other way. That's great. Even if Rick Allen is guilty, do you not support the fact that his civil rights were violated? And that matters, especially in this day and age.
It's impossible that this crime was committed by one person. I don't care what the fuck anyone says. So even if you think he's guilty, which I find impossible, someone else had to be too.
Multiple people had to.
Yep.
All right, girl.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody in chat. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next time. Monday, we'll be back with episode 23 of The Vault. And we'll get at it from there. But thank you all for being here on your Saturday night. God love you. Most of you are probably working 40 hours a week, and your weekends are your time off, and here you are, and it's appreciated. So have a wonderful Sunday, and we will see you on Monday. Thank you, guys. Bye.